Good afternoon to those of you in Abidjan, precisely. I thank you, journalists, for accepting this, our invitation to the press conference. And let me also use this opportunity to thank Mr. Solomon Mugera, Director of Communications and External Relations of the African Development Bank Group, and his team for putting the press conference together. I wish also to welcome members of senior management here, vice presidents, as may be represented, who will respond to questions in their respective substantive areas that will feature during the annual meetings. As you may be aware, the African Development Bank Group is made up of three distinct entities: the African Development Bank, the African Development Fund, and the Nigeria Trust Fund. These were the original entities that form what we call the African Development Bank Group. The bank and the fund have separate governance organs. In other words, they have separate boards of governors as well as separate boards of directors. Of course, in the functioning of these two institutions, somehow there seems to be a simultaneous operation of those organs in decision-making. On the other hand, the Nigeria Trust Fund is a special trust fund of the bank and does not have a separate governance organ as such, but it makes use of the bank's boards as they currently exist. As Secretary General of the Bank Group, I am the Secretary to the boards of governors and the fund, as well as the boards of directors of the bank group and of the bank group. My objective, therefore, in this press conference today is to share with you, members of the press, as a formal way of launching preparations for the annual meetings. I will share some pertinent information on the 2022 annual meetings, which mark one of the most important events on the governance calendar of the bank group. From the 23rd to the 27th of May 2022, the 57th session of the Board of Governors of the bank group, and the 48th session of the Board of Governors of the fund will be held jointly in Accra, Republic of Ghana. Now, as some of you would have noticed from the invitations and save the dates that went out to you, this year's annual meetings will be organized in a hybrid format, more physically catering to the shareholders and some participants, while others will join virtually. What are the objectives of the annual meetings? The objectives of these annual meetings as a statutory event of the bank group is that the boards of governors, as the highest decision-making and oversight organs of the board of the bank group, will review the annual report on the finances, operations, and other activities of the bank and the fund during the preceding year. They will adopt resolutions on key decisions and conclusions of the annual meetings. In addition, there will be the governors' dialogue, where governors will engage on the strategic outlook of the bank group in the coming years, in the attainment of the African Union Agenda 2063 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, among other development imperatives. In addition to the statutory dimension of the annual meetings that I have just highlighted, the bank will organize a series of knowledge events under the theme of the annual meetings, which I will mention in short order. The theme of the annual meetings is achieving climate resilience and a just energy transition for Africa, which responds to the bank's priority areas, particularly the energy area, as well as other composite areas that speak to sustainability in Africa's socioeconomic development. Let me provide you a highlight of the program for the annual meetings. For now, let me take you through the program of the annual meetings with a specific focus on the statutory aspects. The detailed program is available on the bank website for you to see all the things that are in store. Let me also highlight that, or point out that the statutory meetings will be closed to the public. And so on day one, the two of the subsidiary organs shall meet, the Bureau of the Boards of Governors and the Joint Steering Committee of the Boards of Governors will meet to discuss various items on the agenda. And this is a closed session. Then there will be the formal ceremony of the 2022 annual meetings on the second day from 10 a.m. to 11. This will be open to the public as an opening ceremony. Also on day two, the first sitting of the Board of Governors will be held from 14:30 to 17:30, a 3-hour session. During this session, the Board of Governors will review and as appropriate, approve recommendations from various subsidiary organs of the bodies. This is a very closed session of the annual meetings. The second sitting of the Board of Governors, which is what we tag the Governors Dialogue, will be held on day 3 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., another 3-hour session. This is where governors will interface with the president and senior management on the outlook of the bank in the coming years. Then there will be the third sitting of the Board of Governors, which will be devoted to the general election of executive directors of the bank and the selection of executive directors of the fund. That will be day 4 from 10 to 11:30. Now, when you hear about election, you wonder what is happening. The executive directors serve in cycles of maximum cycles, well, cycles of 3 years, but with a maximum cycle of 6 years. Of course, some may not even serve up to 3 years or 6 years because of the constituency arrangements whereby countries take turn to serve or to nominate executive directors to represent their constituencies. The fourth sitting of the Board of Governors will be held on day 5 from 12:15 to 14:15, which will inform the adoption of the official records and the reading of the official communique of the annual meetings. And then there will be the closing session on the 5th day, which will follow immediately after the 4th sitting. In that closing session, there will be a ceremonial handover to the new chairperson of the Board of Governors. One unique aspect of the annual meetings this year is a commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the African Development Fund, for which an event tagged ADF at 50 will be held on day 4 from 14:30 to 16:15, about 2 hours. So these are the main, if you like, statutory events that will take place. Within those days I have read, there will be other multiple events taking place, which of course may or may not be open to the public depending on the nature. As I indicated earlier, there will be a number of knowledge events that will be open to the public, which are being organized under the theme of the annual meetings. To brief you on the knowledge events, I will shortly invite the acting vice president and chief economist of the bank group, Kevin Orama, to provide you the details with regard to the knowledge events. Following the acting chief economist briefing, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. As I've indicated earlier, the vice presidents or their representatives are here to answer those questions that are pertinent in their areas of responsibility as they feature in this year's annual meetings. Let me thank you once more for your attention, and I look forward to welcoming you to the annual meetings in Accra, Ghana.